Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk, exploring the issues affecting all of our lives. I'm your host, Austin Harris. Our guest today is a small independent publishing house that have published over 100 books, both local and international, and whose client list consists of a veritable who's who in Cayman literary circles. They also host an annual writing competition that seeks to recognize and encourage young Caymanian writers. It is our pleasure to welcome to Let's Talk, representing CLM Publishing, Miss Karen Chin. Hello, Miss Chin, and thank you so very much for being our guest here on Let's Talk.
Thank you, Austin, for persistently inviting me to come on the show, and I appreciate being here.
Well, if we could only share the behind-the-scenes footage of what has occurred prior to our interview today, I'm sure that too would be very interesting. Well, Karen, here on Let's Talk, we like to get to know our guests a little bit before engaging in the, as we say, meat of the discussion. So tell us a little bit about Karen Chin. I understand you are, amongst other things, also an author yourself.
Yes, published quite a number of books for myself, and Karen, love to be handling public stuff, but love the private life. I'm always behind the scene of something, whether it's gospel music or writing a book or publishing or children's event. I'm always behind the scene, but it's public stuff. So way back, came to Cayman 30-something years ago, telling my age at least.
Still lovely, very lovely.
Thank you. And so been in radio and a little bit of television, but we are getting there.
Yes.
I'm beginning to like the camera. With your persistence and behind the scene cameraman there, we can somehow get to loving this.
Well, I believe the camera's loving you today, and particularly your ensemble.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Now, we have the benefit of some of your books, one of which is
Yes.
behind me, and
Yes.
the others are there on the table. Tell us about the books that you've published, and particularly what their names are. Perhaps some in our audience may recognize them.
Well, Cayman Islands A to Z, which is nicely positioned behind you there. That's one of mine. I write under the EK Jasmine, showing you how much I like to be in the public. I use a pen name.
Yes, yes.
And so the Cayman Islands A to Z came about some years ago when I asked my daughter a question about the national heroes here, and her answer surprised me. So I was traveling at the moment, and when I got into the country I saw that they have a similar book, little tidbits on histories and so on for children to understand easier. So in the Cayman Islands A to Z, I use A is for airplane, and I talk about the Cayman Airways when it came about, 1968 and so forth. So little facts with regards to the alphabet as well. So that's where I have it. Against all odds, Mr. Norman Baden. Loving that book.
Yes.
Because I learned Simit Road and Walker's Road, who were they really named after. I was really surprised there. So, and one of my favorite books that I've published, and they're all my favorites, but one particular one that stayed with me over the years, it's almost one of my first books. It's Miss Mary Rankin. She brought the book. The story, absolutely a great story, but she brought it without chapter, paragraphs, or verse. She just typed.
Wow,
Everything
all words.
All words.
You work it out.
So it stays with me to this day, where I had to find the chapters, go in our life, and read the book and put it in chapters and so on. So there are authors who would come to you with 30 years of writing the book but want it in 3 days. I have some of those, and I have some that been writing it for 30 years so they can wait another 30 more.
Yeah.
So I do have those as well.
Patience is a virtue.
I know. So and Mr. Baden, Glenn Roy Baden, he's short and Roy Baden, worked with Radio Cayman for years. He actually published his book, My Life in a Conch Shell, and it's a great one. Probably you could be the next person to be on your show. Hopefully.
Yes,
Because,
absolutely.
So I enjoy working with those people as well, because they invite you in their life, like, this is my life. All of it. I just read it, come to my house, come sit down, I'm going to the National Gallery, can I come with you, and so forth. So they invite you in, not just in writing, but in their life per se. So we have many authors, over 100 and something, as you mentioned. John Doak, one of our biggest book, not in terms of price, but in terms of the size. It came with, and we had to do a special treatment for it.
It's a book on architecture.
Yes.
And it's particularly his
Yes.
architecture,
Yes.
visions and otherwise.
Yes, and we had to do a particular coverage for it where we had to have a slip case. But when you feel in the slip case, slip case, outside is like, I don't know if you know the fabric that sugar used to come in years ago, that clothy.
Yes.
There's a name for it, but right now the camera is making me forget.
Sure.
So we had to do that treatment for it, and it was, it was a particular interest to get that book done to show what we can accomplish. I've never done it before, and when the client wanted that particular treatment on the book, we said, okay, yes, we can, and we did complete the book in that form.
The name is on the tip of my tongue as well. I'm thinking of particularly sugar you get out of Jamaica. It's brown sugar, and it comes still in that same wrapping, if you will.
Crocus bag, per se.
Crocus sack.
There you go.
There you
go. I tell you.
See, we work good together. We share a brain, really. Now, tell me, you mentioned right off the bat that you publish under a pseudonym, not your real name. And I'm curious, from an author's perspective, what encourages an author to choose a pen name when publishing versus, obviously, your given name?
Okay. First, mine, I can tell you my story is I wasn't sure it's going to be accepted. So if they don't know who it is, that's all right.
That helps, yes, that helps. Like, who's this? I don't know, but we're going to buy it.
If the coverage was good, like if it's not well accepted, I don't feel any pain then.
Right.
And if my own friends don't really want to buy it, I don't feel any pain. So it was more like, use that. But Jasmine is my name. My parents call me, and my brothers and sisters, family, it's Jasmine. So kind of odd, kind of give it to them as in I'm writing under that name, but it was really the fact that I wanted to hide. And it stayed like that when I put out the first book. It's a lot of people liked it, and so the second one, the A to Z, I put it out, people like it, it's in some schools wanted, and so forth. So now, after writing in that successful name, I can't pull it back to my name yet, because who is carrying shit?
Absolutely. A brand new author? No. I want a collection piece. All one author, thank you very much.
Author. So it's like you put it out there, didn't know it was going to be accepted, and now it's accepted. Because I have another book, 3 Parrots and a Limb, also good for kindergartens and so on. And it's accepted as well. It's well drawn. So even my Cayman Islands trivia, a lot of questions on the Cayman Islands, it's on the EK Jasmine because I brand it and I can't pull it back. So it's almost like when I write a book on the Carrington, I was like, let me creep into this. But that's why. But for some people, it's when you change genre, if you are writing kids' book and you start to write, let's say erotica or something that you don't want your past to know about, or your friends and family, you change it to a pseudonym, so it's fine, So some people use that for the case where they're writing some crime mystery or so on, and you don't want to associate the crime mystery to heaven-bound Christian, I'm only saying that, so you hide it under a pseudonym.
Indeed. Again, from an author's perspective, where do your ideas come from? I mean, Three Parrots on a Limb, for example, fantastic title for a book.
Yes.
And where do those ideas and inspiration stem from? And if you can, share with us a little bit about what the writing process involves. Ideas,
people might think it's too, I wouldn't say dead to say ideas are everywhere, but ideas are everywhere. My 3 little dots on the big world map, I came up with that book because the Cayman Islands, when you look on the world map, it's like 3 little dots.
Yes.
And so I did a little kids book called My 3 Little Dots on the big world map. And,
nice.
So those are the little ideas. 3 Parrots on a Limb, I actually was at the Botanic Garden and I saw them. And I figured kids can learn to count by, 3 parrots, 4 ducks, 5 chickens, because we have them here in Cayman. So I take little information and write those kind of stuff. So that's basically where I get some ideas from. The next person might be at the seaside. In a supermarket, you see some kids running for cereal or anything. So you just have to have your mind ready to receive it.
Right.
Because a book is always in you. You live a life already.
Yes.
And once you're living your life, you can make a fiction from your life. If you don't want to write about your own life, you can turn it into a fiction. As well as you're at the parking lot, somebody honk the horn too loudly for no reason. You just say, oh, wow, why did that person honk the horn? You just start to imagine
Yes.
a day in my life where all was going well until I heard the horn honks, you know. So
Right.
it's how you turn it around.
And the process
My
of
process.
writing. Do you need a quiet place? Are you one of these authors that needs to disappear into the woods or the mangroves in Cayman and write your book in total silence, or can it be? I mean, what is your process?
My process is when the house is asleep. For me, just when no one is going to call you at 12 o'clock, or hopefully not, and 1 o'clock in the morning or 3 a.m. in the morning or so on. So I have different writing times. Some people have specifically 2 o'clock in the afternoon, set their clock to sign off. I can't do it like how some people do it.
Right.
I will just go look at the computer screen for a bit, and then I'll just say, okay, I'm writing several books at the same time. That's my thing. I don't know if it's a problem, but I'm writing. I don't wait till I'm completely done with trivia to start another book.
Well,
So I'm writing several books at the same time. So today I will say, okay, I'm going to work on, I've been working on a fiction novel for quite a while. 150,000 words.
Wow.
Infiltrate is, regarding some stuff going on and so on. So it's definitely a fiction, very good and so forth. But the other day I just decided to take it out, dust it off, and I cramp it down to 87,000 words. Now, 70,000 words gone somewhere where I don't know. I just chop it up and take because if it's
into
not
book
serving
number 2 is where they have gone.
that is also a good way to look at it. But there are ways to say she walked into the room quietly without saying, she walks into the room quietly.
Right.
There are many ways to say she got in the room and slammed the door and scream or something. You can chop some words out easily that don't serve the. So for it to keep running on, for you to turn the next page, I kind of chop it up, chop it up. Next day I might be working on one of the kids' book I'm working on now. How do I jump from a mind space of working on a fiction of 100,000 words to a kids' book that is 4,000 words? Still can't complete the 4,000 words kids' book, but I can complete 100 and something thousand words because it flows. What you're into, what you seek, you'll find. And if I open up Infiltrate to start writing, for days and days I'll just write in it and do my edits and first draft, second draft, third draft, and so forth. So that process is mine. I do what I want to do when I want to do it.
Fair
but
enough.
mostly when the house is quiet.
All right.
My phone won't ring. I won't get a knock on the door. I won't have to jump in my car to go to town. It's my time. So it's midnight, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, one would think with this body of work that you continue to produce, that being an author is a full-time job. But you are also editor-in-chief of CLM Publishing, an independent publishing house. Talk to us about the decision to both write as an author, to publish your own works, but also to add the stress, the joy of publishing the works of others.
It's a hot. This minute I'm feeling like, okay, I'm going to work on Austin book right now. So Austin said he would like his book to be out by November, so on and so forth. So I have some time to place it aside for a bit. And after I send the draft and the draft cover and the draft text to the client, I have my free time because I'm not going to sit down and wait till they send it back to do something while I'm waiting for them. Plus, as I said, I write 2 a.m., 3 a.m. for myself. So that's my time to write or, even to read some client's book, because when I just get your autobiography or your memoir or something, I'm not going to just go in it and read. I read a few pages and said, okay, let me get my mind into that one and put my mind in the frame of mind to read your stuff, because I can't carry my style of writing into your stuff. I have an author, he said, if I wanted a ghostwriter, Karen, I would employ you, because I'm always changing a few things, because he likes to use words that are not conducive to my Christian growth.
I understand.
Yes.
I understand.
So,
but just think of it in terms of your pseudonym. Your pseudonym is your pen name is what's listening. Therefore, you approach it with more of an open mind. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Now we talked about obviously your body of work, but in terms of publishing, we spoke of just moments ago of autobiographies.
Yeah.
One that comes to immediate mind is the autobiography by Lemuel
Yes.
Hurlston, which is a
Yes.
fantastic
Yes,
book.
yeah. Yes, he's a very, he actually introduced me to Mr. Norman Barden.
Yes.
Yes, because that's some of the clients that I have, or most of the clients I've had. They would pass me on to the next person or the next person or so. And I said, she's wonderful to work with. I don't know what they're saying.
Indeed.
But
Indeed.
I accept the fact that, like persons like Mr. Lemuel Hurlston, he gave me about 3 clients from his experience, so I appreciate that. Another person, Trisha, came through, Faye, so I do have some follow-ups and some persons who...
Another notable icon, the late
Sybil McLaughlin.
Miss Sybil McLaughlin.
Yes, I did her book as well, and Miss Susie Soto as well,
Yes.
and for Bob Soto's book, and quite a number of clients that passed through us, yes.
I see. Now, also, in addition to the publishing of local works, you obviously have international clientele,
Yes.
but there's something else that either Karen Chin, CLM Publishing, or your pseudonym does, and that is you host an annual writing competition
Yes.
that seeks to recognize and encourage young Caymanian writers. Now, that particularly caught my attention. Certainly don't see very many Caymanians choosing journalism, for example, as a career path. Oftentimes pick any news agency, and I'm oftentimes left wanting for the young, quote-unquote, Caymanian perspective when I'm getting the perspective of everyone else. Talk to us about this annual competition. What was the motivation in the first instance for going down that path, and what has that experience been like?
First and foremost, you struck a nerve right there, and that's probably what got me started. Having the kids following up in journalism here in school, maybe you could start back and saying in the schools they don't see that they are local writers. So if you're not giving them local writers to read or to introduce them to local writings, J.A. Roy Barden, Lemuel Hurlston, Norman, my own books, if you're not introducing them to writers locally, they don't think that they can become a writer as well.
Right.
Because it's a faraway land. Give them Dr. Seuss and Dr. Spock and Dr. this, and so far away that they will think that it's not something that they can achieve.
Right.
Your first introduction to me, you talk about going into the woodland to write. And that's what we thought a writer should be, reclusive and stay back in the drinking and going crazy till words.
Waiting for inspiration
I know.
lands on their head.
I know.
Yes.
So we take that away. By using the young writers, I'm introducing them to the fact that it's possible for you. Later on, they might turn into a doctor or something else. But first and foremost, you can, while you're saying, what would you like to be when you grow up? It's not being asked too often these days, but why not give them the opportunity to be a writer?
Yes.
By starting there. So that's one of the things, starting this competition some years ago, Graham Mars, yes, I might pronounce his last name a little bit off, but he did a book and he had a launch at the Georgetown Public Library. Sam Oakley, she's Wreck of the 10 Sail author.
Okay.
She actually was the interviewer, and I had an opportunity to sit on the panel when they were asking questions, and so they asked all different kind of questions, publishing and so forth, like what you're asking me now. And she asked, what would you like to see going forward, or what would you like to see more of? And I answered, as it is something burning, more young writers.
Yes.
I didn't know that someone in the audience was listening so keenly. I got a call a few days later. I understand that you'd like to see more young writers. What would you like to do about it? We can foot the bill, per se, to take care of whatever you need. And lo and behold, the Friends of the Library came on board. It's an non-profit organization. And they asked me to, kind of foot the chair.
Right.
I hid behind the fact that nobody knows it's me.
Right.
It's fine. I'm just sending out emails. That's fine. I can put the Facebook up and all the other stuff. And we got a few writers. Actually, this was, if you don't mind me sharing.
Sure, no, absolutely.
This was last year.
In their own right.
Yes.
Okay.
So these were some kids from last year's competition. And we now have this year's competition. We got triple the amount of writers this year.
All
triple.
Right. Triple.
I mean, because we open it now from 10. Last 2 years ago, we got it only 13 to 17. So now we had a lot of emails that came in. My daughter is 11 and she wants to write, and my daughter is 7, and all the different ages.
Wow.
And so we said, okay, leave it alone. Let's just open it. We got so many 10.
So your target audience begins at age 10 and goes to 17?
Yes.
I see.
Because primary and high schools.
All right.
And so we actually have schools, even homeschoolers involved. And so it's CIS, Cayman Prep, St. Ignatius, First Baptist, John Gray, Clifton Hunter, they're all in it. Cayman Academy, they're all there.
Sure.
Writers from this variety, these kids.
And how do you target your young writers? How do you market particularly this competition to them? You mentioned sending out emails, but do you engage them at their level at the schools? How does that work?
Well, we realized that we didn't need to get to the schools. We put up an ad up. Radio Cayman did an interview once, and a few Facebook leads got us the information. I just put a small ad on Facebook, and we got quite a number of leads from the teachers asking us to send the flyers to them so that they can send it to the school students. And one particular schools, we had 14 students from one particular school.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, that teacher did such a wonderful job to organize it. She took all the entries and sent them as one to us, rather than, kids here, kids there, and just copy the parents into it. And that was wonderful what she did.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
To our aspiring young writers who might be listening today, or perhaps even their parents who might be seeking that avenue to obviously encourage their desires and otherwise talents. Talk to us about the competition itself. What does it involve? What are some of the rules and or requirements that go with it?
Well, behind the scene is the Cayman Library Services, Friends of the Library, CLM Publishing, and we just got Island Photo as well to do the photo shoot, because we were doing our send us your best picture to the kids when we're ready to do the book. But Island Photo came on board and said all the kids can come to us, we'll do the photo shoot, and you can have some wonderful pictures from that. So the major chairs, Cayman Young Writers, major chairs, Friends of the Library, Cayman Islands Public Library Services, CLM Publishing, and Cayman Literary Society also came on board this year to provide some of the trophies, prizes, and so forth, and so on. So for kids to be involved in it, the competition opens May 1st, closed by June 30th.
Okay.
So we just close it, and the judges work with it July through the first week in August, thereabout, because a lot of stories, so they have to judge all of them.
Okay.
And then we now ready for the launch of this year's competition book launch in September. And what else? Parents can email Cayman Young Writers at gmail.com. We just send them the application forms and so forth. It's free to enter, as long as we have word count. We have some judging rules, or some competition rules. Word count, it must be sent us in point 12. Whichever font you take is fine, but point 12. Some people send it in 14, 16, and so on. Some people write like that. And we're trying to say rules are there in life. Continue to follow the rules, because if we allow you to send it however you want to, later on when you're ready to send your manuscript to a publisher, they might just reject it just because you didn't follow the guidelines. So guidelines are there to send it a certain way, and so forth. And in your age group, 10 to 13, they're allowed to write from 500 words to 800 words, and for the 14 upward to 17, they are allowed to give us 1,500 words.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay, all right.
So they have to
In
stay
writing
within.
terms, relatively short pieces, but
Yes.
certainly, if it's authentic original work,
Yes.
short pieces and a long piece can be just as difficult.
Right, right. We don't give them a topic either.
Okay.
They can write about anything.
Whatever their inspiration is.
Yes, and these kids do have inspirations. I mean,
Okay.
some of the things you're like, okay,
Yes.
nice.
Nice, yes. Put it in writing. We might want to talk to someone here. You talk about prizes. Obviously, reward is necessary with labor, and certainly, particularly with young people, that serves as encouragement. What sort of prizes the winners of this competition receive?
Cash up front is always a good incentive.
Cash wins every time.
I know. And we do have tablets, gift certificates for a bookstore. You can go and pick up what you want from a bookstore. We do have the certificate and award. This year we're introducing the real award itself for first, second, and third. Because last year we just had the top winner, and he walked away with $1,000.
Wow.
And so, but this year last year we were encouraged to share it up for, first, second, and third. It's a young child. Why would we want to give so much cash to a young child?
Yeah.
But we find that, it's encouraging when a child is just happy with, something.
Yes.
And just getting their, actually seeing their responses when they get the shortlisted, because we do what is called a shortlist group. Your story was accepted for the shortlist program. So a few didn't make it, some make it, and so just making it into the shortlist was exciting for some. The shortlisted program was wonderful for some, and so if they never win the cash, they were excited that their story get to publish, because the shortlisted story get published.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, with this year's competition closed as of June of this
30th.
year, let me extend to you an invitation for the winners
Yes.
of this year's competition. We would love to have you and or some of your aspiring, budding young authors as a guest here on Let's Talk. I think it's the kind of subject that we tend to enjoy very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
As an author yourself, what advice would you offer to the young writer? What guidance might you give as it relates to pitfalls that may otherwise serve to discourage a young person from following through on their dream to be a writer?
A lot there. My first and foremost, just keep writing.
Yes.
It's always important to keep writing. While some ladies' handbags may have perfumes and lipstick, mine is always notebooks. Because I must always be ready to write.
Right.
I'm going down the road and something gets me and I just want to write it down. So I must always have a notebook and pencil or pen in my bag. So you'll find I have a bag with just a whole lot of notebooks and so on to always catch something to write about, because once you keep writing, it gets easier.
Yeah.
Some people say it never gets easier, because it's true. Some books that you're doing is a little bit, I'm doing a book, I'm doing research at the archive, I'm doing research at the library, I'm doing research in just about everywhere I can think of. So I have a lot of papers to type later on, but
Sure.
it's what you do. Just keep writing, because it becomes easier and a little bit easier and a little bit easier and a little bit easier. And you will start to love your writing. Because the first writing is, you're excited. But having been in radio for years and years, I remember the manager of Heaven 97 said to me once, never marry your commercial, because I used to write commercials for the radio. And he said, never marry it. And I said, what? And he said, no, never marry, don't get married to the commercial, because the producer is going to change it. The owner, the client, everyone is going to change a little bit about it, and you feel you wrote the best thing. So it's what you're writing as a young writer. Never get so attached to it that if the editor get to it, the proofreader get to it, or so forth, just know that they're trying to make it shine.
Yeah.
That's my encouragement for also young writers. Read a lot. Just read. Just keep reading.
Right.
I would encourage them to go read some local books, go see what locals are writing about, and they themselves are experiencing life here in Cayman. So start write some stuff about Cayman as well. 100 years later, somebody's gonna pick it up and go, I remember this. Look at where Butterfield Bank used to be at Comart Building.
Yes.
Comart Building,
yes.
Butterfield Bank. What's happening? It's
and actually, before that, they were in 7 Mile Shops under a different name. I know because that's where I got my my career start in life. But that's
how inspiration comes about, where you try to put two and two together. There are things that you can write about, and these young people need to involve themselves in Cayman lifestyle.
Sure.
To see how well they can produce something for the future, or produce something for those who are coming. It becomes history for them. So
Indeed. Well, Karen, you are an inspiration, and I want to thank you not only for your body of work, but certainly the body of work that you've published through CLM Publishing. I want to give you an opportunity for some closing comments, but if I may encourage you in those closing remarks to just share your contact details again for members of our listening audience, whether it be a young, aspiring writer still in elementary school, or perhaps a more mature writer simply waiting for an avenue or perhaps the right publishing house upon which to share their life's work, how they can contact you.
Okay, for Cayman Young Writers, it's Cayman Young Writers at gmail.com, and we have a Facebook page that they can follow, Cayman Young Writers as well, or 345 Writers, and they can find us on Facebook under that, 345 Writers. For CLM Publishing, production at CLM Publishing, or just go on our website. You can even fill out a form there and submit something to us. It comes to our email.
All right.
Yes.
Well, Karen, it's been a real treat hosting you. Thank you so very much for
yes.
being our guest. And again, we look forward to further collaboration, in particular hearing from some of the young Caymanian writers that you will be featuring on your competition.
Yes.
And certainly we say to our audiences, certainly watch this space.
Wonderful. Thank you for Let's Talk. I really appreciate it.
Well, certainly to our audiences, we thank you for joining us for another episode of Let's Talk. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode as much as we have. If you have, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Please tune in every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. for another episode of Let's Talk, exploring the issues affecting all of our lives. I'm your host, Austin Harris. Until next time.